city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We are streaming on all social media platforms at Keys to the City. So subscribe, comment, share, or like. What a playoffs it has been. We've been talking a lot of NBA, but it has been a great postseason for some teams, and it's been a devastating postseason for other teams. We're going to get all into it today. A lot happening right now in the NBA. Tomorrow we'll be back. We'll have the Joseph Aguirre join us talking baseball. Tyler Glasnow comes out going against the MLB. Garrett Cole pitches another great game last night. We'll talk about all that tomorrow. But we're going to talk about the NBA because a lot, and this is an understatement to say the least, especially yesterday. We could have done a full, complete day of show for the NBA yesterday. And you think about what is there to talk about. Well, let's see. You have the Nets, KD, an historical performance, a legendary performance. Paul George last night, another legendary performance. Two guys that face immense pressure coming into this postseason. They deliver when their team needed them. Also, the Philadelphia 76ers have another collapse. First, it was an 18-point game in game 4. Now it's a 26-point lead in game 5. Is it time to scrap the process? We'll talk about that. And then, will the both number one seeds currently down 3-2? Will they go down? But like I said, Ted, just to say the least, doesn't seem like a lot's going on in the NBA, right? I mean, let's talk. I was thinking about this. No, just think about yesterday for just one day. Just look at yesterday for an example.
Well, CP3, you find out that he had some tracing of COVID-19. Yep. So we'll find out if he was vaccinated or not, because if he is, that'll change the process of how long he'll have to sit out. Now, there has been some jokes of how is the NBA going to play this, because it was funny because when LeBron James was, out and about having a good time he had no worries. So we'll see how the NBA plays this with Chris Paul. We'll see if he's vaccinated, and we'll see what is going to happen when whoever they play in the Western Conference Finals. Then we find out yesterday Kawhi has a knee injury. I knew he had an issue once he bumped into Bogdanovic the other night up in LA in game 4. He didn't play the last 4 minutes. So listen, crucial time, him not being able to play in the last 4 minutes. You knew something was up. But yeah, like you said, Trev, a lot of news coming out of the NBA. I know a lot of general people that probably watch our show are not big NBA fans. I know a lot of people. I feel like the people we talk to don't watch the NBA. But I tell you, the NBA has been great. For all the knocks that we're going to talk about today with teams blowing leads and a lot of the injuries of main guys in the playoffs, the NBA playoffs has been great. I mean, both games last night were exceptional, and the games, for the most part, have been really good, competitive. There's been very few blowouts, and we've seen some unbelievable and some historical performances by some great players.
Yeah, so let's go. We'll talk about all that, but I want to start off with this because this is the biggest story going in for me. And is it time to scrap the process? Because we've been hearing about this process for years now. They get Embiid, they draft Ben Simmons. Looks like the pieces are all falling into place. And then all of a sudden, another collapse is going on in Philadelphia, and this is game 5. I know we talked about game 4. We didn't talk about game 4, but they blew an 18-point lead in game 4, and now it was a 26-point lead. Ted, it's a very simple question because like we've been discussing, and all of the other sports shows throughout have been discussing this word, the process. This is the word associated the best with the Philadelphia 76ers. Well, we're at that time that they're the number 1 seed. They're one of the favorites this year, not just in the Eastern Conference, but in the entire NBA to be in the NBA champion or to maybe win an NBA title. Well, they're one game away from, and I did say this, would not be surprised if the Atlanta Hawks would be in the Eastern Conference Finals. Well, the Atlanta Hawks are 48 minutes away from being in the Eastern Conference Finals. But Ted, very simple. Is it time to scrap the process? Because you look at the past 2 games and you look at the bigger issue. It's not Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is nasty. Him and Jokic are 1A, 1B for best center in the NBA. Doc Rivers maybe will take another blame because if they fall apart again, just another collapse on his regime. And then you look at Ben Simmons. I think that's the biggest issue going forward, and just not enough scores. I'm sorry, but Seth Curry and Joel Embiid are the only people scoring in the second half. It's inexcusable.
So if they don't make the conference finals, the NBA let's rephrase that. Philadelphia Sixers and the Daryl Morey have to take a hard look in the mirror and really think about trading Ben Simmons and possibly Tobias Harris. Both guys, listen, I said this when I wanted to do the show with you in the car ride. Tobias Harris got a max contract. Congratulations. Good for him. Listen, NBA guys, go get your money. I'm not going to knock anyone for getting their money, okay? We all want to get paid. So
better shooters and
I asked you, I said, has he ever made an All-Star game? Like
he's been close. He just has had a lot of snubs.
I don't ever remember him being an all-star. I don't ever remember him being a great player. I don't ever remember him talking about being a superstar. You're getting paid like a superstar. He's nowhere to be found, bro. And I'm going to start with him first because, it's easy to pick on him. But late in the game, they developed a play for him, and he wanted nothing to do with the ball. He even gave it to Milkshake Milton. I'd say Milkshake Milton because that's what his father used to joke with him because he loved milkshakes. But Shake Milton, a guy you didn't even know about 10 minutes ago, and you're giving him the ball. The Sixers have a serious problem, okay? Ben Simmons, who's supposed to be their best or second best player on the team, is a serious liability. Serious liability. He can't shoot. We know that. Can't shoot a three. Doesn't have a mid-range game. I told you, he's a poor man's Giannis. He is a liability. I mean, late in the game, your point guard not touching the ball is a liability. He's become the hack-a-shack. Okay, and Atlanta has gone to this multiple times. I was just reading this, so I make sure my facts are straight. Before the All-Star game, right? Ben Simmons was shooting 67% from the foul line, which is still very poor, okay? After the All-Star break, he shot 53.3%. Last night's performance, he was 4 for 14, and now Simmons is shooting a abysmal 32.8% from the playoffs, from the line in the playoffs. That's atrocious, bro.
Hold on.
Shaq was 55 to 60%. Ben Wallace, who was god-awful for the Pistons, was above 50%. For him to shoot 32%, Trev, it's a serious liability. There is a problem because your point guard is supposed to control the ball. If he can't make free throws and he can't make a shot, what do you do with him?
I find it more insulting that if I was Ben Simmons, I would have took it more insulting that the fans were actually cheering and giving him a standing ovation when he was hitting his free throws. I mean, to see that just shows where you're at currently. And a lot of people have been saying, I give Joel Embiid a lot of credit because I've been hearing this a lot recently on shows. And Embiid is the one that puts all the energy in. He's the one that's willing to go above and beyond to be great in this league. And he has shown since every season he has translated his game to even higher ceilings that we thought he could. I mean, we thought he was going to be really good, but he had the injury, the foot injury coming out of college. But we know how great he was with Kansas. They were going to probably win the national championship, him and Wiggins, if he stays healthy that year. He comes out, probably should have been the number one pick, but he had the foot injury. He has worked his way to a superstar level. Whereas Ben Simmons, the guy that came out of the NBA, coming into the NBA, was projected to be like maybe a LeBron, maybe a Magic because of his facilitating skills, and he can improve his jump shot and his scoring ability. Well, he hasn't been able to. If anything, it's actually gotten worse since his LSU days. And it just doesn't seem like he doesn't care enough. He's more worried about going to hang out with Kylie Jenner and the Kardashians than trying to work on his jump shooting game, his free throw game in the offseason. It's inexcusable, and it's comical. If I'm the Philadelphia 76ers, you lose to this Atlanta Hawks season or team, which, I mean, credit to the Atlanta Hawks. I'm not taking away from anything. They've been unbelievable this year, and Nate McMillan deserves to be the head coach for a long time in Atlanta because he's done a terrific job of changing that organization and culture around. If they lose this year and as the number one seed and they lose 3 straight games the way they've lost, done. See ya. Don't even think about it. Daryl Morey, Doc Rivers, and that team have to have a hard look in the mirror, like you said, Ted, and they have to go all in the sense of getting rid of Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, whatever you have to do other than the name Embiid, and even maybe Seth Curry. because those two guys came to play last night, and everybody else, well, kind of just sat back, laid back, and said, hey, can I get a hot dog or a popcorn? That's what I want to do. Because I want to watch Trae Young and I watch the Atlanta Hawks come back and beat and embarrass me in the playoffs. So that's what I'm doing. And if you could, there's a lot of potential superstars out there, maybe a Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal. If you look, they need to go all in and go find somebody else because this plan and this process is not working.
Listen, it's over with. Like this is not a second, third year guy. Like the guy's been in the league for about 5 years now. Like he's not.
Congrats, he's an all-star, but it's not enough. Sorry.
Like I said, he's a poor man Giannis. It's the same thing. Two guys that can't shoot the ball, have unbelievable athleticism. Now, Ben Simmons is a great passer. Ben Simmons is a better defensive player.
Oh, he's one of the better defensive players. One of the best defensive players in the NBA.
Didn't Giannis win Defensive Player of the Year like 2 years ago?
Did it go Beer? I mean, Simmons was at one point we all thought he was going to win Defensive Player. He's a tremendous defender. We get that. He's a tremendous facilitator.
Jeff,
his core vision is better than most players in the NBA. It's not that. We get what he can do. Great.
Listen, I told you on the car ride, I would call Portland and say, would you even be willing to trade for Damian Lillard? And I say, this is what I'm going to offer you. Now, people think I'm probably crazy. I'm shipping Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris to them. Here you go. I mean, I'll start with Ben Simmons.
And draft picks.
See if I can get Tobias Harris.
And draft picks. Draft picks are worthless in the NBA. Unless you have a top 5 pick or there's a superstar like Zion or Ja Morant or those type of players that are coming out. Other than that, they're worthless. NBA, and I've been saying it, is all about superstar teams and super teams and superstar talent. And that's what wins in the NBA. And you need to go do that because you're right there you're right at the tip. You're right at the top of the mountain. You just need to go make almost that move, that final piece, that final move to go get and maybe win a title.
So, listen, the process is about to get scrapped, ripped up, and thrown apart because Ben Simmons is a liability. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. We understand it. Everyone understands it. The guy can't shoot free throws. He can't make a jump shot. I can't believe we're talking about a guy in the NBA who can't make a jump shot. I mean, when I think of basketball, I think of shooting the ball like, horse in the backyard, like, jump, shoot, not layups, I mean, if you look at him and Giannis's shots, they're all within 5 feet. And then now that he can't make free throws, just like Giannis, now Giannis makes him a little bit better. I mean, a much better percentage than 32%. But I mean, come on, dude, 32%. It's atrocious. It's a problem. Doc's going to have to really think about what to do with Ben Simmons in the fourth quarter because Atlanta has gone to this strategy of hack a Shaq, but it's hack a Simmons. And that's how they've gotten themselves back into games. It's a problem. It's a serious problem. And I think the Sixers, I know they're not going to want to be like, oh, we can't get rid of this 25-year-old young superstar. Time to move on. He's a liability. And listen, I don't want a guy that can't shoot. I don't want a guy. And Joel Embiid can't be dribbling the ball like he's your main point guard. Him and Simmons should be pick and pop all day long. And if Embiid can shoot free throws and make threes, how is Simmons can't? It's a problem. It's a serious problem, Trevor.
Let's shift over to this because, not just the 76ers are in trouble. The other number 1 seed on the other side of the tournament, the Utah Jazz, are in trouble right now, and they are down 3-2 after last night's. They were taking care of business, and then Paul George decided that's why we'll get it. We'll talk about Paul George and how he's one of the most inconsistent players in recent memory in the NBA. But both number 1 seeds are currently down right now. 3-2, been great series, but they got some trouble right now. And that could be due to injuries for the Utah Jazz or just the choke artist that the Philadelphia 76ers have become. So, Ted, it's a very easy question. Which number 1 seed or are both going to go down? What would you say? Would it be the Jazz or Sixers or both?
See, here's what I would say to this before I give you my correct answer. Both, I think the Clippers and Atlanta need to close it out in 6. I think if both teams go back to 7, it goes back to the home team. And I would definitely give the Jazz the edge going back home more so than the Sixers because I've seen them blow leads. The Jazz haven't blown leads. They just Mike Conley's been out for this whole series, hamstring. Who knows if he's going to play at all? It doesn't look like it. Donovan Mitchell now has an ankle injury. He said he's going to have to fight through it, but I think that was the biggest loss last night. Donovan Mitchell not playing 100%. They shot 50-plus threes last night. I think they only took 22s. It just their whole ball game changed last night. The script of taking the ball to the hole, and I mean, everyone wants to chuck the tree. It's like you in the backyard. Let's just hit the jump shot. You want to chuck 50-foot threes all day.
I don't do that stuff. That's nonsense.
God. When we used to play basketball, bro, all you would want to do is shoot threes all day long.
The Clippers shot 40. Shot 43s, and the Suns 54. So a lot of 3-point shooting last night.
Excuse me. How many threes did the Suns take last night?
The Clippers. The Clippers took 40. The Jazz took 54. So there was a lot of 3-point attempts last night.
And Donovan Mitchell. I'll put it this way.
I just remember always schooling you in basketball.
I will say both teams do not go down. I think the Jazz push it to 7. If they push it to 7, the Jazz will win at 7.
Okay. Well, remember, Kawhi's done for the series. Kawhi's done for the series.
I'll say at least one.
Looks like Conley also could be done for the series. So,
you know what? I say at least one's definitely going down, possibly 2.
I say the Jazz survive. Philly goes down. I did say the Atlanta Hawks. Don't be surprised if they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. Even though I picked the 76ers to get to the finals, I did also pick the Lakers. Well, scrap the finals preview or the finals from prediction for me. I'm going with the Hawks. They got the hot hand right now, and they got the right. They got the right game plan defensively. If they can, this is what Doc Rivers.
They're the only team with no liability in the playoffs right now. They don't have any liabilities on their team. They don't have any COVID problems. They have no injury.
No, they got scores. They have
no injury concerns. Yep. They have a great coach. You know, you go to the Sixers. All right, you got Embiid, who's hurt, but he's played great.
Here's my thing. Hold on.
Ben Simmons can't shoot a free throw. The Suns, who I know are waiting, have to deal with Chris Paul's COVID protocol, and we'll see how that plays out. Kawhi's hurt and is out. And then you look at the Nets. The Nets are dealing with Harden with a hamstring and Kyrie's out. And then Brooklyn, they lost DiVincenzo, and they got a big game tonight. We'll see what happens with that. But every team has some type of liability except the Atlanta Hawks.
So that's what I was going to say is that oh, my God, I lost my train of thought because Ted was still speaking. Thank you, Ted. I was thinking I had something. No, this is what I was going to say. I got it. So I would say more the Hawks would beat the Sixers because I just don't trust the Clippers. I don't know what Paul George is going to show up in Game 6. I don't know. Is it going to be the guy that last night that went off at 37, or is it the guy that's going to go 2 of 15 from the floor and have 12 points, and that's what I'm going to get? I trust the Jazz more than I trust the Sixers because I know Mike Conley being out hurts them.
But if Donovan's still hurt.
With the perimeter shooter, if Bogdanovich could shoot the ball like he shot in the first half, if Ingles can make his shots, if Mitchell can continue to try to play through that injury. I know it's a tough injury, but if he continues to play at that superstar track that he's been playing with Gobert, I like this Jazz team more than I would do the Sixers just because I don't trust the Sixers. They've shown the past 2 games that no matter what the lead is, no lead is safe for them. And I like what the Hawks are bringing. They can score. They can shoot from anywhere on the floor. They can defend. And they have the right game plan going in against Philly right now. And Philly's lack shooters. Unless Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons become Magic Johnson and James Worthy or something, I don't see the Sixers winning. I just don't really see them winning. I see the Jazz doing it more. But I was going to also get into my next point. So I got the Jazz. I don't have the Sixers. Ted, you would have –
same thing.
Okay.
But I do have faith in the Clippers though because of the depth. Terrence Mann played big time minutes last night. I don't know if you saw the dunk on Rudy.
Oh, he had a huge play on Rudy Gobert late in the game. That was nice. I thought he missed it. I was just like, wait.
He almost put the hand in the rim. Reggie Jackson's been there before.
Reggie Jackson had a nice game last night.
Marcus Morris had another great game. They have players.
It's like the thing. Can they continue?
I don't know if you looked up the numbers. Paul George has actually played better this season when Kawhi has been out. His numbers have all gone up: rebounds, points, and assists. So, listen, I said to you jokingly, it's playoff P. Well, lately in the last couple of years, it's been playoff L for loser. Okay, and it could have also been playoff no show. But last night really changed the narrative a little bit for me that he stepped up on the game that was away in Utah. Wasn't a home game. Wasn't a game 5 home. It was away. And for him to put the performance he did last night speaks volume. And listen, this is why you pay a superstar like him. Why you pay Kevin Durant. Why you trade for James Harden. Why you bring in a Kyrie. This is why you need this. That's why when you look at the Sixers and you're like, we have Embiid and we have – I don't know what we have. We got a lot of good players, but a lot of the apples, you turn it over, there's some rotten parts. It's starting to, turn that white fuzz and be nasty. And Simmons, he's a great player. He's a great defensive player, but he can't shoot. Can't shoot free throws. That's a huge liability in the NBA. I'd rather have a guy, no offense, like Steph Curry or Trae Young who can't play defense but can put 37 on the board. Sorry. That's my narrative. Luka Doncic, we don't talk about his defense, his poor defense. We talk about his ability to score and put points, and he wins games.
In the NBA,
that's more important to me.
Defense is nice. In the NBA, it's about scoring. And speaking of scoring, we had 2 legendary performances back-to-back nights. The other night, we didn't even get to talk about the other night, but Kevin Durant doing what Kevin Durant does best, and that's putting the basket in the hoop. And he does it better than maybe anybody in the NBA currently right now. And this is why we always talk about Kevin Durant. Where does he rank him on LeBron? We always talk about he needs a LeBron James type game. Well, ladies and gentlemen, he had a LeBron James type night the other night. And it was something I remember watching it. I was at Darren's house. I was watching it with Jack. I was watching it with Franklin. I was watching people. We were just like, we were in amazement. We were just like, damn. But here's the thing also. Well, what are the Bucks doing? Why are the Bucks? I know PJ Tucker has been playing them well this series, but when the man's got a hot hand, when the guy's got a hot hand, especially a player like Kevin Durant, it's like those guys like Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. I don't care what kind of defender you have on. Doesn't matter who's guarding who. When a man's scoring the way he was scoring, you need to do something different. He finishes with 49, 16, and 10. Or I should say 49, 17, and 10.
And then 49, 17, and 10.
Yeah, 49, 17, and 10. And then Paul George last night, who we've also talked about a legacy because he needs – every time we think of Paul George, we think of the failed opportunities in the playoffs. And even with Kevin Durant, see, it's different with Paul George, and I would say it's more impressive from Paul George and not Kevin Durant is because we've seen Kevin Durant do this before. We've seen Kevin Durant dominate a game offensively by himself. Paul George is probably the most inconsistent player in the NBA, definitely the most inconsistent superstar in the game, but has to be one of the most inconsistent players all around. Finishes with 37, 16, and 5. I say it's more impressive because, well, Kawhi's not there. I know Kyrie's not playing and Harden was there, but Harden really wasn't there offensively. But it's still Kevin Durant. Paul George, we don't see this for Paul George. This is why we always talk. One game he's like this. He goes 37, 16, and 5. And the next game he's 4 of 12 from the field and scores 12 points. And everybody's like, well, this is why we don't talk about Paul George enough, or we're always on Paul George. I would say Paul George's game is more impressive than Kevin Durant. I'm not surprised because Kevin Durant does this all the time.
Actually, Paul George has had 12 straight games of 20-plus points in the playoffs so far this season. It's
that's fine, but he's supposed to do
I know that. But he broke a Clippers record, so and he's been playing well this entire playoff series. Now, listen, I'm not going to knock him. It was a very impressive performance last night. Big performance.
Yeah.
But if I was comparing the 2 teams that are on the court the other night, I'm taking 4 of the 5 players on the Clippers before I touch anybody on the Nets on who's remaining. I mean, Kevin Durant, first of all, Paul George is playing for great, but Marcus Morris had 20-plus points last night. Reggie Jackson had 20-plus points on last night. They have a lot more depth and a lot more better players on that team than when you look at the Nets team, who it's Kevin Durant and a bunch of guys who signed 10-day contracts. I mean, Mike James wasn't even on the roster up until about 2 months ago. All of a sudden, he's your starting point guard. I mean, you're pulling Blake Griffin, who couldn't dunk the ball. Here's why I say Kevin. Hold on.
You know who the second leading scorer was for the Nets that night?
Mike James.
It was Jeff Green.
He had 27 points.
Yeah, Blake Griffin was the only other player in double figures.
And the reason why I say the performance was better, because here's the thing. Kevin Durant is coming off an Achilles tear. Now, you never thought, well, a lot of people at expertise did not have the feeling that he was ever going to be the same player as he was when he was for the Oklahoma City Thunder and it was for Golden State. For him to play as well as he did under the pressure, because here's the thing, they lose, they're probably definitely going back to lose in Milwaukee. So for him to perform the way he did, because they were down. They were down in that game.
They were down double digits. They were down 17 points.
And what impressed me more was not the points, not the rebounds, not the assists, but he played all 48 minutes. He never came out of the game. He played the entire 48 minutes of the NBA game. That's what's more impressive to me, that he was able to sustain success throughout the whole game. He didn't have a minute rest or 30 seconds or a couple minutes. Even LeBron's and the Kobe's and Michaels always came out for a couple minutes.
No, he's the only. He's the last superstar. LeBron and him.
48 points, 17 rebounds, and 10 assists. It was the second most points he's ever had in a playoff game, except when he had 50 for Oklahoma City Thunder. It was the most rebounds he's ever had in a game. And it was I think the most or the second most assists he's ever had in his career. So for him to put that performance, knowing that he was the only guy in the court that could do that, James Harden was just there as a face. Trev, I'll use my old thing. He was a duck. He was a mallard. He was a decoy. He was there. You could tell he didn't have his legs under him. His performance was better. Kevin Durant's performance. Now, did he have the better performance? Of course, but for me, it was more impressive. This will be a performance that you will only make a difference down the road if they move on to the conference finals and eventually win the NBA finals. If they lose game 6 and then end up losing game 7, we'll still talk about it, but it won't have the same sex appeal. The way I look at it is this performance can go down as a Jordan 63-point game when he was up in Boston in 86. When even though Boston went on to win, you knew that was the best player in the court. There was no one to stop him, and people talk about that legendary performance. Even Larry Bird said, I don't think God could have stopped Michael Jordan tonight. That's how good Michael Jordan was. I don't think anyone would have stopped Kevin Durant, and they have to win this series to make this performance go down historically. But I'll take his performance. It was legendary because I don't look at the Nets team as any – I mean, come on. Jeff Green, he's played for 9 different teams in the NBA. He had a heart issue, almost lost his life. I mean, we're relying on Jeff Green, Blake Griffin, who was in Detroit and was a lost soul, Mike James, who was doing, shipyard work and selling groceries on the side, and now he's your starting point guard. This was all on Kevin Durant. It was all on Kevin. If Kevin Durant didn't have the performance it did, they lose. And here's the other perspective I'll say. I'll take the Bucks team currently stated right now better than what the Jazz were on the court last night. Donovan Mitchell was hurt. Mike Conley was hurt. And I'll take the players on the Bucks with Giannis and Blake and Lopez and Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday. I mean, their team, you stack that team.
Let me finish up this point. So I'm sticking with Paul George just because based off of I know what I expect from Kevin Durant. This is what I expect from Kevin Durant. This should not be a surprise for me. I know that. I mean, he was.
But this type of performance, you expected 40-some points, 15 rebounds.
This is what I expect from Kevin Durant. This is when you're a top 2 player in the NBA for the past 8 to 9 years in the NBA. No matter what people want to say, I mean, other than LeBron or Steph, Kevin Durant has been the man. He has been the guy. No matter what people want to say or how hated he is, it doesn't matter. He's been unbelievable. This is what he's supposed to do on a nightly basis. So I am not surprised. I'm surprised that he had the triple-double that he did, which was awesome to see. But still, this is what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to come in every night, give you 30, 35-plus a game. He's a scorer. There's a reason why people in this field always want to consider him or go down and say he'll go down as one of the greatest scorers of all time, if not the greatest scorer. So he's expected to do this. Paul George is also expected to do this because he is a top 15 player, top 10 player when he plays at this level. The thing is, we expect Kevin Durant to do it consistently. Paul George, we expect him to have a game like this, and then the next day or the next game, he has a game showing of 15 and 5 and shoots from 4 for 13 from the field. That's all I'm trying to say. So to see Paul George deliver in the clutch when his team needed him, when his superstar was down, the best player on their team down, and looks like he's going to be out for the series, then it's on you, Paul George. KD, LeBron has done it before. You want to get compared to one of the all-time greats, you have to make a game like this. You have to perform like this on a daily basis, and that's what Kevin Durant did the other night, and shout out to him, and he's deserving of it. So I'm not surprised by Kevin Durant's actions or his play on the court. I'm surprised by and more impressive than what Paul George did last night. I wanted to get into this to close out the show because this has been the big deal. This has been, and especially showed yesterday, and I want to get all this right because there are a lot of names to get down. So the NBA, this entire season, I know we've been talking about the playoffs specifically with the injuries and the players out, but it's been going on throughout the season too. And LeBron James was highly critical of of starting the season a little earlier, knowing that teams like the Lakers and the Heat specifically, who were in the finals last year, only had the shortest rest, about 70 days off before the season started. And he was highly critical of this, saying that, well, this isn't a smart idea. You got to get these players some rest, more rest, because, well, it's going to hurt your product. Well, I know the ratings have been up and down because of the players that are out. I just want to give you some of the players that have been out. And they're the biggest names probably in the NBA, some of them. AD, hurt. Kawhi, yesterday. CP3 came out yesterday, COVID and hurt. Kyrie, hurt. Harden, hurt. Embiid, hurt. Mitchell, who's still playing, hurt. Luka, hurt. Russell, Westbrook, hurt. Beal, hurt. Mike Conley, who might not play. Kemba, Dante DiVincenzo, Jaylen Brown. Just some of the players. These are, I mean, it was on Twitter that other than that, the playoffs have been great. But you look at this, all the players I just named, they're not bench players, they're not role players. They're some of the biggest names in the NBA, superstars that are missing. Also, I missed another name, Jamal Murray, who maybe could have made a difference in that series with the Nuggets and Suns. You never know, but he was out. You look at this. All the players that have been out for this entire postseason and even the regular season. Was LeBron James right about this whole shortened season, Ted? How do you feel about seeing all these players go down at a high rate, too?
No, I don't think so. Because if his dumb ass was still in the playoffs, he wouldn't be saying this crap. I guarantee if his team advanced and he was playing right now, I guarantee he wouldn't be tweeting it out. Shut up, LeBron. Okay? You played 10 less games during the regular season. Guess what? You still got your full pay, didn't you? You agreed to this CBA contract. You negotiated this. So I don't want to hear it. You agreed to – the NBA players agreed to this. This is like working 4 days a week and getting paid for 5. Okay? We'd all love to do that. That's what happened. You played in a shortened season. Yeah, it was crunched in, but you agreed to this. You could have played in a shorter season or said, you know what? We'll play in a shorter season, give us 75% of the pay. But they didn't want that. They wanted 100%. Now, listen, injuries are part of the game. It happens. Kawhi's always gotten hurt. It's unfortunate. It's in every sport. It's just
terrible. It's just
I
really
want to use the word, things happen. I'll use, remember in the Forrest Gump when he steps in the tub and goes, things happen.
Oh, yeah.
And they cut it out. Crap happens. It is what it is. It's unfortunate. Because like I was telling a guy at the gym the other day and we were talking about this, I go, yeah, I guarantee if Anthony Davis was healthy, the Lakers would have won that series. But he wasn't. But Anthony Davis, it wasn't like all of a sudden he got hurt. He's been hurt his whole career. All right? And here's my other thing. LeBron James,
it's just more the name. Hold on. It's just the high players, the names.
Right. But here's the other thing. LeBron James takes care of his body. LeBron James takes care of his body. How many of these other guys put in the same amount of work? All right? Jeff, we were talking about Ben Simmons before, just his shooting ability. How many guys are putting in the extra work? How many guys are getting rehab? How many guys are putting in the extra hours to make sure that they're 100%? Do they take the offseason off and sit in Malibu and California and Cabo and then all of a sudden show up?
I know.
James Harden, right, was a fat slob in Houston. Wasn't really ready to play basketball. And it took time for him to get prepared. I wonder how many guys in the offseason are enjoying themselves playing with porn stars and this and playing golf and in Cabo, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks before the season they get ready. Are they putting in the work like LeBron? Are they putting in the work like Russell Wilson? Are they putting the work in Tom Brady? It's unfortunate because they're superstars.
Yeah,
and the NBA prides itself on superstars. Thank God the games have been good. All right? but I understand where you're coming from. It's affected the games. It's affected the playoffs. It's no different if we were going into like a couple years ago in the NFL when it was Tom Brady and then 3 backup quarterbacks. Well, I consider Blake Bortles a backup quarterback. But imagine going into the playoffs and in the AFC and Josh Allen's hurt and Patrick Mahomes is hurt and Deshaun Watson's hurt. It affects the playoffs. It changes the whole narrative of the game. Of course, you want to be 100% healthy, but injuries are part of the game. It happened in football. It happened in baseball. They happen in basketball. They happen in hockey. You have to overcome them, just like the Clippers did last night. Get to the conference finals. Hopefully, Kawhi will get healthy and he'll be back. It's unfortunate. It's affected the playoffs drastically. It is what it is.
I think it's unfortunate, highly unfortunate. My only thing is it's different from football and basketball or baseball and hockey because in the NBA we've talked about it past couple of weeks. The superstars, when you have the talent, when you have the players, it's not like you in the NBA to succeed and to be a title contender. All you need to do is have two superstars. I shouldn't say superstars, but 2 stars on your team. A team like the Lakers, who obviously it affected them tremendously with AD's injury and even LeBron's injury. A team like the Clippers, where all these teams we talked about, the Nuggets, I just said, losing Jamal Murray. I know he's not a superstar yet, but he's still one of the better guards and younger players in this game that he could have changed. And his scoring ability and the way that he facilitates and his vision as a point scorer, I should say, that affects a team like the Nuggets. Whereas the NFL, you still have 52 players. The NHL, you still have 12 to 50. You still have a big chunk of players. In the NBA, it just feels differently. Even baseball, it feels differently because
the stars carry
the game. The lack of the stars carry your game. And when you're seeing it, it's just unfortunate.
But can I tell you something? Has it truly hurt the performance on the court? No. But has it affected the way? Has it affected the playoffs in the sense of who's won? Absolutely. It
also could affect this in the sense of if you get to the NBA championship, you don't get to really see maybe the full team, the team that really deserves it. That's all I'm saying. It's like a Lakers.
Yeah,
we thought Lakers won
let me ask you a question. Do we knock the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year for the Super Bowl win over the Chiefs because they weren't healthy on the offensive line? No. We don't give it. Hey, do we knock the Lakers last year for their championship in the bubble because they got 4.5 months of rest and all of a sudden they were playing the 5th seed Heat? No, not them. There's no asterisk. It is what it is.
I never said it's an asterisk.
I know. It is what it is. The games have been great. It's unfortunate because we all know, like, if the Celtics were healthy against Jaylen Brown and Kemba, they probably still would have beaten the Nets, but they would have gave a better performance. The Nuggets would have not gotten swept. If the Lakers had AD, they probably beat the Suns, but it didn't happen. Guess what? The best thing for LeBron is to shut his mouth, get ready, get the extra rest, and be ready for next year and have one more last run at the title. It's plain and simple. It is what it is. You deal with it. The best teams survive. They move on the healthiest, and that's what it is. The games have still been great. All I'll say is the games themselves haven't lost its luster. They haven't lacked any luster. They have still been great. Thank God, because like you said, Trev, there has been an abundance amount of superstars have been hurt. I believe up to what I was reading before, a total of 108 games have been missed by players that have averaged at least 25-plus minutes during the season, and that's not including Dante DiVincenzo, who just fell short of that, of the 25-plus minutes. But he's out for the season, too, with an injury for the Bucks, and consider that a significant loss, too, for them as a rebounder, sister, playmaker. And if you're a Bucks fan, you know who I'm talking about.
Well, we'll see what happens because you got you got tonight. You got Game 6. We have
tonight. The Nets close it out, or the Bucks bring it to 7.
I'm going with the Nets. No, you know what? I'm going with 7. I'm gonna go with 7 because they're the home
I think the Bucks definitely come back. I think Kevin Durant's not gonna be able to pull out the performance he did the other night, especially after.
You know what? Screw it. I'm going with the Nets because I think with the way the Bucks collapsed in that game too as well, and we didn't really talk about that up 17 and the way Durant played. We'll see how Harden plays. I think that's a key. If Harden could continue to, he'll be available to play. Kyrie will not be playing, so we'll see if Harden can get some more offense going and try to have a nice supporting cast for Kevin Durant because while he's playing his A game right now, he's playing at the top of his level. We'll see what happens. Will the Nets be one of the final and join the Phoenix Suns in the conference finals? as we could have half of our conference tournament finals shaped up by tonight. So we'll see. A lot going on. I said we'll be back tomorrow. We'll also be talking baseball. We'll discuss it with Joe Aguirre, and we'll see what happens with the Nets series tonight. We'll see if there's a Game 7. We'll talk all about that tomorrow. We are Keys to the City. We're streaming on all social media platforms at Keys to the City. So subscribe, comment, share, or like. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We are out.
Yeah. Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we're unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.